Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us today at this Where Do I Begin workshop for genealogy at AJHS. My name is Danny Haskey. I am on the committee, the subcommittee for genealogy at AJHS, and with me is Barbara Simon, who is our fearless leader. As we know, genealogy is simply the study of your personal family history, but any introduction to genealogy does need to come with a warning, as many of you know, or some of you may already have worked out. Genealogy is highly addictive. It is a massive time suck, and you become very, very obsessed, and you may try your family's patience with all the stories that you find about your dead relatives. I know I certainly do. So why do we do it? We do it because it's there, because learning about our family can teach us something about ourselves. Where do we do it? We can do it anywhere with an internet connection now. We don't have to necessarily go into archives, although going into archives does certainly help. How do we do it? We combine the skills of a historian, a data analyst, a psychologist, and a detective. But there are no shortcuts. We have to do the research, even with AI, and I will touch on AI a little bit later on. But learning about our ancestors is a fascinating and an engrossing activity that can take us on a journey through space and time. And as you uncover your family stories, you will discover things about yourself that may surprise you. So the first thing I want to do is disavow the three most common genealogical myths that stop people even before they start. And I've heard this from all sorts of people all over the place. So the first myth is our family name was changed at the border. I just heard this recently. It's often said in relation to Ellis Island. Oh, the guy at Ellis Island couldn't pronounce the name and couldn't spell it, so they changed it and said, from now on, your name is Smith. That didn't happen, because anybody that got off at Ellis Island, or pretty much any border area, had papers. They had travel documents. Even if they were refugees, they still had travel documents. So they had to have some sort of identification. That doesn't mean that as soon as that person stepped into their new home, they didn't change their name almost immediately without paperwork. That was quite common. So finding name changes can be quite challenging. If you're really lucky, like I was, they did it by deed poll. But most of the time they didn't. So it can often be family law, but often you will find a document that has their original name crossed out, or a hyphen, or known as. There's all sorts of ways to find those name changes. You don't always find them, but you can often find them. The second myth, particularly regarding European records, was that they were all destroyed in the war. Many were. Obviously, Europe was bombed to smithereens during World War II. Things are happening in Ukraine right now where archives are being bombed. But what had happened prior to World War II in particular, and even World War I, and we can thank the Church of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, for this, is that they were going around for years and years microfilming records. The other thing about, particularly if you're looking in synagogue records, is that often communities were obliged to send copies of records to the government. And so we're now discovering that even data sets or record collections that were destroyed by fire or by bombing, there are actually recordings of them, or photos of them, in the vaults in Utah at Salt Lake City. The Mormon records, which are accessible via Family Search, have all been digitized now, but they are not all indexed. And some of the digitized records are still not available online. So I will talk about that later on. The third myth, and this is the most easily disputable. Oh, my family's boring. Why would I bother? There is no such thing as a boring family. Every family has an amazing collection of rakes and rogues and renegades and hellraisers and high achievers and heroes and heroines. And finding their stories is the fun part. Preserving their stories is an act of love, and it perpetuates their memory down generations. And if we don't do it, who will? A person only dies when their memory is lost, and it's our job to keep them alive in our memory. So some do's and don'ts. Start with the do's. The easiest place to start is from the present. You start from what you do know, you work out where your holes are, and as you go back in time, you start filling in those holes. So in the handout that is in the chat, there is a pedigree chart. And you can just do this as a sketch on paper, or you can print out the one that we've given you and start filling in your name, your parents, your grandparents, everything you know about them that you know either in memory, or you can ask an older family member. You just write that down. If you're not sure of a date, you can put circa and kind of the year that you think it might have happened. You just put what you do know, and that is your starting point. You look for variants in the spelling of names and places. I had a really good one recently that thankfully ChatGPT helped me about, which was the name Cagar, Cagar. And as far as the person knew, it was possibly in Prussia. I couldn't find anything like it. I actually asked ChatGPT and it gave me the most reasoned argument that it is most likely to be Zagari, which is a town I do know very well, which is in Lithuania, because my great-grandmother was born there. And as I looked through the reasoning and I looked through other documents where it was spelt with an S, and I thought about how that person might have said it with an accent. That's always good. Try and say it with an accent and different sounds for the C. I suddenly realised that that was a very highly likely variation of that particular word. One of the most difficult things to do when you're starting out, but one of the most important, and I didn't do this, and I wish I had, is to cite your sources. So when I say cite your sources, it basically means write down where a piece of information came from. So if it's a birth certificate, or if it's something out of Trove. Trove has a little citation thing on the side where you can just copy and paste the citation of your choice, even if you just put it in a notes field. If you're using an online family tree program, I'll talk about those later on, there are places that you can put your citations in. But make a note when you're collecting your information about where really important pieces of info came from, because it'll stop you going back over things that you've done before, and it'll also help you find it again if you need it. The fourth do is to look for contextual information. So if somebody migrated, for example, why did they migrate? What was going on at that place in that time? So the Holocaust is contextual information. We know if somebody was forced from their home or was in a camp or came out at the end of the war, where they went, what life was like for them at that place in that time is the important contextual information to understand their individual experience. And of course, the most important fifth do is to network with your local genealogical / historical society, stay in touch with us, become a member, and we will help you as much as we can. Okay, a few don'ts, and particularly with AI, this is quite important. Don't believe everything you see, hear, or read on the internet. If you are dabbling in AI, it is very good at making things look plausible. Be critical about what it tells you. I had asked very early on, about a year or so ago, over a year ago, had asked ChatGPT to help find an individual. It gave me the most fantastic biography of this woman. As I started to try and find the corroborating evidence, I realised that what it had given me was absolute fiction. Even when I asked for justifications for certain facts, it kept saying, oh, yes, well, this was a very common name at the time. And it was absolute fiction. And I still have not been able to find what happened out to that person. Always back things up. You can put things in as speculative. I often do that. I put the word spec in front of it or write in big capital letters speculative until I've managed to find primary documentation. You'll hear the words primary, secondary, and tertiary evidence quite a lot. Primary documentation is things like birth, death, and marriage certificates. It's official, government generated, generally information that is not hearsay. So on those primary documents, please don't post them to the public internet. You can put them on private servers, you can share them with family, but these are documents that can be used for identity fraud. So even 100-year-old dead relatives, I tend not to put ID docs online, but absolutely for anyone alive, never ever put them up on the internet. If you are looking at other people's trees online and they give you access to them, please don't change data and don't let other people change your data. Make sure if you're using the online trees that in your settings you have it turned off, that people can change things. They can contact you if they want to change something, if you've made a mistake or if something needs to be updated. They can message you or they can email you or they can give you a call. You can work together. If people change data on your trees, it's very, very inconvenient and it can be a real pain. This happens a lot in Genie, which it's great because it's trying to connect everybody together, but it can be a real pain, and it happened to me that somebody changed data. Number 4, don't hoard your research. Share generously. Don't keep it all to yourself, because by collaborating, we find more, we have better research, we fix our mistakes, we discover things together. And of course, don't ever think you'll be finished, because, as I said, it becomes an obsession and you will always find something else to do. I myself have branched out into people that aren't even my family now. Okay, as I was talking about, data security, very, very important in the internet age. Don't share identity documents online. I repeat that. Keep your passwords safe and up to date. If you're using the online trees, go into the privacy settings and make sure they are set at the highest level so that information about people that are alive is only visible to people who you authorise. As I said before, don't allow people to edit access to your family tree, and once again, do this in a way that you can be generous and share information safely. Consanguinity charts. It's a word we can't say. You won't hear it very often, but It's basically the way you figure out how you're related to somebody. The online trees and the computer-based programs help us do it. I just call everyone cousins. But sometimes it's really useful to understand how somebody is related to you, especially if you are trying to work out DNA relationships and where people are related. There is a copy of the consanguinity chart in the handout. It's just a way of working out where you sit in relation to other people, and so where that common ancestor is. If particularly if you're getting matches, if you're getting a match to a third cousin, for example, trying to figure out where that point of commonality is, it's going to be a 2 times great grandparent. So there could be hundreds of descendants of that person or those people. So just so you are aware of that. Genealogy is basically 3 key activities. We collect information, we collate that information into some sort of digestible format, and we share that information with people. Kind of sounds dry and dull, but of course, for those who have started to dabble or are just beginning, it's far from that. Now, to explain these activities, I'm actually going to do it in reverse order because we spend most of our time in the collecting stage. So I'm just going to quickly cover sharing and collating, but we're going to talk mostly about how you collect that data. What you find you can share in all sorts of different ways. You can share the data with other researchers through either putting it up on an online tree that people can match to, or literally, as I got it, I was given paper family trees from people who had already done a lot of work, and I've got files that were bequeathed to me when people passed away. You can write down and share stories with your children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, cousins. Just telling the stories helps. You can write a memoir or a broader family story. You can make a keynote presentation. You can do a podcast. You could even make a movie. The important thing is to ensure that your data is organised and secure, and it's even better if you can cultivate a genealogical heir to pass it on to, because there is only sharing it is going to be the best thing you can do. Collating your stories can be done in all manner of ways. So you can go onto MyHeritage or Ancestry or Genie and create a family tree. These are online trees that you can share with people. You can download what's called an offline tree on your computer. So Family Tree Maker, Gramps is one that was doing the rounds for a while. I'm not quite sure where they're at right now. You can do it on paper, but you'll find that it will get out of hand. You can start Ancestry and MyHeritage. You can start. There is a free level up to a certain amount. I'm not sure about Ancestry, but certainly MyHeritage, you get about 250 people in your tree for free. But they do want you to subscribe. Family Search is free. Be aware that Family Search is affiliated with the Church of the Latter-day Saints, but they don't push that on you as far as I can tell. So you can set up a free one on there. You can download Family Tree Maker, for example, or MyHeritage has one as well that is that can link with it, but you can use it separately free. So you have to make a judgment call yourself as to whether you want to subscribe to these organisations. Obviously, each organisation has its own data set that will help you along the way. One of the hints with Ancestry is it is always available for free at your local library. So if you want to just search Ancestry, go down to the library, and ask the librarian there how they access it. So now it is time to get into the weeds. In order to have something to collate and share, you need to collect it. So the things that we collect are things like data, which is names and dates and locations and incidents. We collect media, like photos and videos and audio recordings. And we collect the contextual history. So information about conflicts and politics and geography and culture and all of those little details. All of those things get turned into stories. And it's the stories that make it interesting. Now, I want to make a distinction between data and stories because the data is the information that you're going to glean from the records. And the stories is what happens when you put all of that together with the contextual information that you find, plus things like letters and photographs. And this is really what gives you the richness of your family history. It's one thing to say they were born on the 12th of January 1885 in a shtetl in Zagari in northern Lithuania. But what was Zagari like in 1885? Was it a wealthy neighbourhood or an impoverished little shtetl? Is there a military record? Did they have to go into the army? The military records here, particularly for World War I, are all available. And so you can see if you had an ancestor that fought in World War I for Australia, all their medical records, all their deployments, any injuries that they had are all available to view at the National Archives. So if somebody was a refugee, the refugee information will tell you where they went and what boat they were on. Then you can look up information about the boat. So it's that richness, it's that detail that the data starts to illuminate that gives us the story. And they feed each other, like this Dr. Dolittle push me, pull you. They feed each other, and the more data you get, the more details you can add to your story, the more contextual information you get, the more details you can uncover. So it's all very, very important, and it all feeds each other. And that's one of the reasons why things never end, because you'll uncover something that will give you more information, which will lead you down yet another rabbit hole. So in order to start getting the data and the contextual information for the stories, you have to start collecting information. So the first step, as I alluded to before, is just to get the low-hanging fruit. So you write down what you know. You start with yourself and you work backwards. You talk to older family members. If you're lucky enough to have grandparents around, just sit them down, put the tape recorder on your phone, get them to tell you their stories. Not all of them will be true. Family stories often start from a germ of truth. Go through old photo albums. Make sure, if you can, that if things aren't labelled and there's somebody there who knows who people are in the photo, write it down, write it next to the photo, write it on the back of the photo. Try not to let photos go unlabelled. The next place is to go to the official government data sources, birth, deaths and marriages, census and voter lists. We have an issue in Australia that we have no identifiable census records the same way they do have in the US and the UK. And that is because they were all destroyed in the 80s, I think. The government made the decision to destroy them all. Since the late 90s, there has been the option to have your data retained. Hopefully lots of people are doing this. That will all be released in 100 years' time. Migration records, military records, newspapers. We have, of course, the wonderful Trove, which I'll talk about shortly. land and property records, business and phone records. And at AJHS, we have some wonderful databases available for burials across the country and the Pacific, marriage records from the Great Synagogue, some military records for Jewish servicemen. So there's a lot of things available, and we have a comprehensive list of website resources in the genealogy research section on the AJHS website. For this, I'm going to concentrate mostly on Australian records. I will talk about overseas records in a minute, but at the moment I'm just going to stick with Australia. If you're looking for births, deaths and marriage records, there are, of course, privacy embargoes. Each one is state-based. There are indexes. There is one state that does not have it. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but again, it's on our website, that doesn't have an index. South Australia has an index, but it's not through the government, it's through the Genealogical Society. You will only be able to find births up to 100 years ago. You will not be able to find indexes of births in the last 100 years, marriages in the last 60 years, or deaths in the last 30 years. If you are a direct relative of that person and you know that the certificate exists, you can apply for it. You simply have to show your relationship to that person. You can do most of this online. You can order paper or PDF ones. And I recently discovered that for the Victorian one, it's all automated now. So when you order a certificate from the Victorian Archives, it comes instantly once you've paid the money, of course. So it's around $30 usually, sometimes a bit less. It's just gone up in New South Wales, unfortunately. And I'm very much hoping that New South Wales will adopt whatever the system is they're using in Victoria, because it was fantastic. In Australia, there are all sorts of fabulous places that we can get our archives from. So there's all sorts of places. You kind of need to figure out where the archive you're looking for is held. Because we were a colony up until 1901, there is, and some places, for example, places in Victoria and Queensland were part of New South Wales until they became their own colonies. Sometimes archives can be in strange places. So, for example, there are migration records at the National Archives of Australia, and naturalisation records, but some passenger records are in the New South Wales or the Victorian records offices and not available through the National Archives. But National Archives is a great place to start. Of course, one of the most fabulous sources that we have is Trove. It is free. It is fabulous. It has a massive collection of digitised newspapers. It has all the Jewish newspapers digitised, and it is word searchable. So the word OCR, if you don't know what that means, it's optical character recognition. That means basically that a robot is reading. So sometimes the transcript of the page may be mangled. So you kind of have to be creative sometimes in your searching if something has not been repaired. If you create a profile and log in, you can actually repair the transcript, and that helps everybody. Trove uses the collective to do what would be millions of person hours work to transcribe everything that's in there, to correct it. But it's pretty good at the moment. Sometimes it's just mangled and you just repair it as you go along. You can just repair the bit that you're interested in. You can download individual articles. You can download whole pages. You can download whole publications in certain circumstances. If anyone needs a lesson in Trove, I'm happy to show you stuff. We've got the National Archives of Australia has migration and naturalisation records, a lot of which have been digitised. As I said before, it's got all the World War I military attestation forms and military records. They were all digitised in time for the 100th anniversary of the Anzac Cove landing at Gallipoli. They are working through World War II records. If something you're looking for has not been digitised, you can pay for it to be digitised, and then it is available to everyone. The Australian War Memorial has records. It's a little bit more difficult to navigate, but if you're looking for unit diaries, for example, they have a lot of digitised unit diaries. If you've got an ancestor who spent some time in a country town, contact the local history society of that country town. The Federation of Australian Historical Societies has a directory. You can always just Google them, Google the town, like put the town name and historical society or local history society. And if one exists, it'll come up. Otherwise, find the local museum and give them a call. They're absolutely fantastic. And they often have things that you just wouldn't expect. They're really, really, really good people. International sources. For Jewish records, Jewish Gen, first place to start. It's mostly free. I would call it freemium. It's free to search, it's free to access. They work on donations. So if you donate, you get a little bit more access to things like you get 4 search fields instead of just 2. You may get access to other resources, but mostly Jewish Gen, you can search and find things for free. You do need to register regardless. JRI Poland is a specialist website that deals with Poland and Polish territories. The thing about Poland, Lithuania, Russia, the Baltic states, all that whole area is the borders changed so much. I mean, Prussia doesn't exist anymore. Galicia doesn't exist anymore. And yet these are areas that were integral to our family stories. And so understanding the geography of a place, of a region is really critically important. Family Search has an extraordinary number of records of obscure towns. Find My Past is excellent if it is a subscription site, but it's very good if your family was in England for a long time. You can access that through the State Library of New South Wales on site. I think they have a library version of it. Ancestry, as I said, through local libraries, MyHeritage, good old Google. Amazing what you can find if you put the right search in. And at this point in time, I'm just going to touch on AI. AI is getting extraordinarily good. ChatGPT will now search the internet. Claude AI searches the internet. You have to be very careful about the question you ask. So a question in AI is called a prompt. These are large language models, which means they have been designed to tell good stories, to give you very cohesive sentences. Family Search is experimenting with using AI to search their collections. They have a thing called Family Search Labs, I think, which you can use to try and find information. It's still early days. It's amazing, and we will be doing a workshop on what you can do with it. But I just say at the moment, particularly if you're not particularly tech savvy, to use it with caution and to always follow up whatever it tells you with finding that primary documentation to verify what it's telling you, because otherwise it will take you just down a rabbit hole. Country-specific resources. So now if we go overseas, so all of our ancestors came from somewhere, whether they came in 1860 or 1890 or 1950, 48, 50. They came from somewhere else. So working out what's available in that somewhere else can be easy or it can be challenging. So we know that a lot of Australian Jewish community came through England. England has fantastic resources. So tracing that through Ancestry, through MyHeritage, through Family Search can be quite easy. There is also a website for births, deaths and marriages in the UK called FreeBMD, which is in the handout. But if we're going to non-English speaking areas, France, South Pacific, Central Europe, it can get more challenging. JewishGen is the best place to start for pretty much everywhere. Anything that is available to them is in their list. They've got a big list of databases. You can look at the different countries that are available. It's a great place to start. If you've got something in a foreign language, if it's a PDF or something that you're able to copy the text of, use Google Translate. If it's a picture, this is where AI can actually be really helpful. So even just on the free level of something like Claude, if you upload it, there's a little plus button up the prompt window, ask it to transcribe it and translate it. Again, you might need to double check it. Like particularly if it's in something like Russian, if you copy that transcription and then put it into Google Translate just to cross-check the translation that it's given you in the AI. Some of this kind of sounds like it's a pain in the butt, but nothing is quick or fast. It is better to be slow and thorough than quick and dirty in this case. Holocaust records. The three main sources for Holocaust records, we know we have a very large cohort of survivors that came to Australia. So if you find that you've got family that were victims of or touched by the Holocaust, you've got the Yad Vashem Central Database of Jewish Victims. They've changed the navigation on that. It's a little bit trickier now. There is also a list of victims at USHM, which is the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. And then the Arrowson Archives, which are amazing, deal with survivors. So a lot of the transit cards, a lot of the information about people going through transit camps is on the Arrowson Archives, and that is a really, really useful and important source. Of course, join a genealogy society. Liz is here from the AJGS Victoria. Our workshops and events on our website, we have a lot of website resources. We have a resources library if necessary. And, of course, we can help you with your research. Any questions?
I just wanted to check whether, if you can talk a bit about resources from Israel or in Ottoman period or Mandate period in Israel. One of the things that I'm planning to, I'm planning to visit family in Israel, but I wanted to take the opportunity to do some research there, but I would need to be really prepared to plan that. So, and I don't, I mean, I have some ideas of what to do, but to help with that.
Yeah, sure. So there's IGRA, which is the Israel Genealogical Research Association. I understand that they are currently working on a project quietly in Turkey to try and translate Ottoman era records, because there's a large repository of Ottoman records in Istanbul, from what I understand, but they're written in a really obscure form of Arabic, like a Turkic kind of a form of writing that was exclusive to admin. It's like their administrative shorthand, and that it's quite difficult for people to read. So I would get in touch with IGRA and see if anyone can tell you about where that project is at. I haven't heard much about it for a while, and they would be your first port of call. Look on JewishGen as well, because, of course, they will have whatever they have for Israel. Oh, MyHeritage is an Israeli company. So, you could subscribe. They always do a 1-year deal. Like, they give you half price or so for the first year. Or you can sign up for a monthly things. Some of their collections are free to view as well.
Yeah,
So,
I'm already a member.
you're a
There's
member of My Heritage.
it's like a limit to how much information I can find. And I know that they like last year, had a data sharing arrangement with IGRA, so they've the resources are there. But there's particular family members where I can't find anything about them at all,
I
and
have
others
the same
where
problem.
I have found,
Yeah, I have the same problem because my father's family was from Egypt. So my father was from Egypt, and I've traced them back to Syria. So I like, it's blank. I can't find beyond my grandfather, and that's only because I have the documents that they brought to Australia. I actually haven't found anything in Egypt. So it's only what they've got here. So yes, there are challenges, but IGRA would be your first port of call. You could contact the Israel Museum, but I dare say they would refer you back to IGRA.
Okay.
So yeah, that's unfortunately My Heritage, IGRA, they're kind of it.
Okay.
For the moment. So,
thanks.
Rochelle.
I just wanted to make a comment. I have a lot of photos that can't be identified.
Yeah.
My cousin found some also from his mother recently, and I contacted Yad Vashem and asked if we should send photos to them if we don't have any identification, and they said they would be very welcome.
They are starting to play around with the AI facial recognition. They are photos of Holocaust survivors or victims?
Well, presumably victims.
Presumably victims. Okay. Yes. So definitely send digital copies through to them. They have got an extraordinary project that's happening at the moment where they have AI examining all of their photos, and if somebody has been identified in one photo and then they find that person, for example, they've got school photos and things like that, so they often know when and where the photo was taken. So it's a combination of crowdsourcing, in that people will go on, tag somebody in the photo that they know was their grandparent or great-grandparent. If you send it to them, it will go into their collection, obviously, digitally. And then they will, if somebody else tags somebody that looks like them, it may come up that eventually that gets tagged. But it's a very long-term project.
And you recommend sending digital copies, not the actual photos?
Oh, absolutely.
Because my feeling is the family will just throw things out.
I mean, you could send them the originals. I would keep digital copies of them just in case, in that case. Send them both the digital and the originals. Are they old photos? Like, are they on card or?
Yes.
Right. They are very old photos. If you know that they're victims, yes, send them.
It's very sorrowful, but that's.
I know, it breaks my heart. There's a wonderful project called the Lost Photo Album. Turns out she's a lovely Jewish woman. And she has an Instagram page, and she finds photos in like op shops and stuff, and tries to find who they belong to. She posts them to her site, puts any information she knows up there, and they have reunited old family photos with, or at least identified who's in them. And she helped me out actually identify somebody. So we managed to find the owner of some photos that were up for auction, and that's a cover story on a past kosher koala that you can read about. So it was very good, very exciting. It's a very satisfying thing when you can. Have you worked out in these photos if any of them are of the same people, so you can put them in sets?
I found some really interesting. I researched some really interesting information because I had a little hint about something, and so I was able to do that. But often not.
Yeah.
So some of them are from my aunt, and I have no idea.
Yeah. Oh, what a tragedy. Yeah. That's why I say put names on the backs of photos.
Absolutely.
And on the digital ones, you can tag them. You can put the name in the file name. something that will help retain that information. I mean, unfortunately, one of the drawbacks of living in a digital world is if everything comes crashing down and an EMP destroys the internet and everything, then history will be lost. So we must all continue to pray for peace all the time. Any more questions?
If you don't mind, I've got another question.
Of course.
I have quite a bit of documentation from my husband's family, and quite a bit of my own. The National Library of Israel once told me it's good to keep everything together archivally rather than picking stuff. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to deposit some of this stuff somewhere, but would you think that that's important also?
Well, it's about finding the logical organizational structure.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're separate families, I tend to put separate families in separate folders. But the challenge comes when two people get married. So your husband's family, your family, but then you get married and have children, and there's your family. So you could have it all in one folder, but you have it divided up. It's about finding that logical sequence, and every family will be different. This is why there's no hard and fast rules. And people organize things in different ways as well. So organizational structures can be, there's a like archival librarian way of doing things, and then there's the way that we think as individuals. So I guess what you need to do is find that the logic that works for you. There are places, there's a place called Archival Survival that sells proper archival grade folders and plastic sleeves and all of that, that's acid free and can help you physically organize your stuff, or boxes, all of that kind of stuff. They sell all of that. It's not terribly expensive. It's easy to label, all of that. And so it's really sort of seeing what you've got and how it wants to logically organize itself. I tend to do things chronologically and in family groups.
But should be preserved, yes.
Definitely should be preserved. Everything should be preserved.
It's just a question of where to deposit stuff sometimes if it's historically interesting.
That's right. So finding the most appropriate collection. So the state library, are you in New South Wales or Victoria?
ACT.
ACT, okay. National Library. Talk to the National Library about what they will hold.
Except that it's Jewish material, so I'm not sure if that's most apt.
In which case, Jewish Historical Society, speak to the archivist there. So,
okay. Thank you.
Because I was looking for some stuff in the State Library of New South Wales, and one of the things that I found was deposited in somebody's family history documents of a particular family. They just happened to have taken lots of photos of an area that I was interested in. Unfortunately, not all of it was labelled, so it was like, oh, who's that person? It had information that was relevant to what I was doing, and that was a family history collection for an individual family that was deposited at the State Library of New South Wales. So provided they can see what that interest is and it's relevant to the collection. When AJGS merged with AJHS, a whole lot of our personal family histories went into the AJHS collection. So we still need to sit and catalogue a lot of that, but that is one place that it can go.